Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome, and thank you for joining. This is the first of our executive tech talks this year, and we've got a pretty good turnout, which I'm really happy to see. My name is Martha Lacrosse, and I am the tech coordinator for Capital Workforce Partners. We're the workforce board for North Central Connecticut, and we provide employment services as well as training, some of the training that you're part of in the Hartford region. So that includes IT training, but it also includes healthcare training, manufacturing training, commercial driver training, and licensing. We designed this series of talks to give you an introduction to a Hartford area tech employer and to allow you to ask questions from a tech leader. And this is your opportunity to ask those questions today. Today we're here with COCC, which you'll know by your research is a major financial technology and services firm that operates across the Northeast that is based close by in Southington, Connecticut. It's over 700 employees and a cooperative ownership structure, which I think is pretty unique. And Chris might be able to tell us a little bit more about that. The first time I visited some of the managers at COCC, I was really struck by their commitment to training and to developing employees, which is probably partially why COCC has been named as a Connecticut top workplace for something like 15 years in a row. So that's really important as you're looking for prospective employers. So let's jump in. I'm really happy to introduce you to Chris Braga. Chris is the talent manager at COCC. He's got a super impressive background in technical recruiting, in talent acquisition, account management, you name it. He's got it. So loads of experience, and there's really nobody who's better placed to talk with us all today about the tech job landscape and how to leverage the training that you're currently receiving or that you have recently received into that next job in the tech field. So, Chris, if you're ready, I will turn it over to you to give us a few words, and then we'll kind of open it up for Q&A.
Absolutely. Thank you, Martha. I appreciate it. I'm really excited to be here with everyone. Thank you for having me. Um, in an embarrassing turn of events, I'm a tech recruiter, but I can't get PowerPoint to work on my dual screen here correctly. So I'm going to share my screen, but it's going to be from the um, kind of not the slideshow part of it, but hopefully everyone can see what we need to see. Uh,
Chris, this is great experience for working in the tech world, so no problem at all.
yeah, where nothing works when you need it. As Martha said, I've been a technical recruiter for about 10 years. Um, I've done a lot before that and in between. So I'm going to give a little bit of a background as to my little story into my background, and there's a reason for why I'm going to be talking about myself for the next like minute or two. Um, because as Martha said and has told me, a lot of the people in the audience here are looking to break into their chosen career field, which they really want to. And I have quite a road here that I've been in, so I can probably empathize with a lot of people here today. I'm a first generation American. My parents are from Portugal. I was able to go to college. I graduated during what they call the Great Recession, 2009. Some in the audience may or may not remember that. But essentially, I was looking for jobs when I was graduating, and not only were jobs disappearing, but companies were disappearing. Um, so, I thought I was going to be a 20-year-old CEO coming out of college, and then I ended up working for Enterprise Rent-A-Car in Boston. So I was vacuuming cars with a suit on and washing cars. Was not what I had pictured. And then from there, I've had a business. I've been a landscaper, temp logistics analyst, agricultural sales, and then 10 years ago, I landed in tech recruiting. And I talk about this because it's a winding road for a lot of people to get where they want to get, and it certainly has been for me. But I've 10 years in, totally worth it for me, and I've been able to kind of solidify my career. I did put in a little piece here, pay cuts galore, because every job I've taken in tech recruiting, except for this one, I've taken a pay cut to get into. Um, and I say that for a reason is because, I've heard it said to value experience and skills over money and to have a long-term view of a career. And that has paid off for me. I don't, I can't say that it will pay off for everybody, but each opportunity, I took a pay cut to get into tech recruiting. And then I took a pay cut for what I thought was a better opportunity. And then I took another pay cut to get into a management role in recruiting for a nonprofit that helped neurodivergent individuals get good jobs in tech. And like I said, it's worked out. Landing at COCC is just it's kind of it seems like the culmination of this long process. Anyway, so enough about me. I just wanted to give you the background and let you know, even if it's a winding road to where you want to get to, you can get there. All right, so I think a lot of questions I've gotten over my career about tech recruiting is, do you need a degree? Because a lot of folks don't have a degree. Do I even stand a chance without a degree? And my answer is always yes, 100%. Um, I have seen and recruited many people with successful IT careers that do not have a 4-year degree, never got them, and didn't need them. Um, so uh, Practical experience and knowledge, I think, in tech, in my experience, has always been at the forefront. But there's also really a push in the greater industry now more than ever for that 4-year degree to be less and less important. Um, you know, Even for those who have degrees, where they got them is less and less important now. Um, Google, Facebook, a lot of the bigger tech companies
Which means
are
I'm
not
gonna go into
requiring
this.
4-year degrees. COCC does not require a 4-year degree for really for 90% of our positions, um, because we know that doesn't tell the whole story, whether or not someone has a 4-year degree or not. So what do I always tell people when they're looking to break in, whether or not they have a degree or not? This is what I would tell people. Um, Internships and apprenticeships, which I spelled wrong here, it are really key. Getting that hands-on experience, it just helps build your resume. I know those can be difficult to get as well sometimes. So, they're worth going after, but I will acknowledge that they can be just as difficult sometimes as getting a job in IT. Um, I've seen people contribute to open source projects and have success leveraging that as experience, depending on the area of IT that you are looking to get in. Um, Freelancing and personal projects, I always think that's a great way to build your resume again, to talk about what you've been doing. Um, Certifications, I put asterisks here. I think for people looking to break into IT, investing in certifications is one of the most powerful things you can do. Um, I have in my tech recruiting career, most of it has been spent in the infrastructure space, so help desk, system admin, servers, network admins, etc. So for me, the CompTIA is a great foundation. The CCNA really, if you're in the network space, if you're in the infrastructure space, um, that really sets you apart from other entry level folks. So if you're in that space, I can't recommend that one enough. It's not free. It takes a lot of studying, but that will help you get a job in IT infrastructure, or gives you the best chances of getting a job in IT infrastructure if that's the path you're looking to go down. AWS has a lot of certifications as well, some free, Google as well. So when you're looking to break in, the more you can show what you've done to break into the career that you want to be in, that's going to catch the eye of a recruiter. Um, I also have here, so when you're looking to break in, don't be afraid of off-hour, temp, contract to hire type work. I know everyone's situation is different at home and financially, but if you're able to, getting those jobs can really start your career. I've seen it where I've placed someone in a month contract on a help desk, and then I've seen their career over the years just build on that and build on that and build on that. So if you're able to do it, I think that's a great step to go into. Um, some recruiting agencies are better than others, but I would certainly not rule out making friends with recruiters online because they will have access to particularly the contract jobs in the area. Um, and they're always typically always willing to talk and help people break in because they will get these projects um, where they need, sometimes a large number of people quick to set up desktops or to be in a help desk for a project or something like that. Um, Again, this is just speaking from my specialty in the IT infrastructure space, but the help desk I've seen can be a successful base to launch an IT infrastructure career. Um, it's, probably not the dream to be on the help desk, but a couple years on a help desk, troubleshooting servers, troubleshooting desktops, getting their hands dirty, proving that you can have longevity at a job in a difficult job like help desk, that can really serve as a strong base to move yourself forward into your desired career path. Um, and then I've told this to so many people over my career. It's timing and persistence. Probably getting some eye rolls about that because you say I've tried and I've tried for a long time. It really comes down to that. As a recruiter, I used to be in the agency world, and now I'm an internal recruiter. But um, I would have people kind of in my network that I talk to, have an initial conversation, and then a year later the right role comes and I can give that person a call. And if they're available, we've been able to connect. So it not getting a job oftentimes doesn't doesn't necessarily mean doesn't speak to your lack of skills or anything you did wrong. It just could be timing. Someone comes in who's the perfect fit, has every little box checked that they're looking for. And then the next time something comes around, you might be a good fit. So I can't stress that enough, just to keep your head up and keep pounding away at it because at some point it's likely that something will connect. All right. My thoughts on LinkedIn. Here are some things that I always advise for folks. LinkedIn is one of those things that it's a powerful tool. It's one tool to use among many. But I think if you can get this right, that's just another little piece of your base in your to try and break into IT. So these are just some things that I look for or catch my eye as a recruiter. A compelling headline. Um, I always suggest people keep it compelling but relevant. Yeah, sometimes you see a lot of things that, they've got 20 descriptive words about themselves, and maybe four of them have to do with their job. So I always, compelling, always in my mind, I say I would want to know, okay, what's going to sh really tell someone who I am and where I'm going or where I want to go in a really quick little headline. Optimize your about section, telling a summary of who you are, what you can do, and what you're looking to do. Um, Experience and projects that obviously should go um, onto LinkedIn. Any endorsements and recommendations you can get. It just those build the case. So if candidate A and candidate B look equal, and a recruiter goes onto candidate A's website, LinkedIn, and that person has several people recommending them and written out a couple sentences as to how great they are to work with or how great of a learner they are or whatever that is, that's going to be the person that gets more attention. And then from a networking perspective, LinkedIn groups can be great. Um, I would I would stress the local LinkedIn groups. So if there's SIM, like the security group in Hartford, or cybersecurity specialists in Fairfield County, or any of those local groups where you're more likely to make a connection that can lead to something. Even if it's not a job, it could be an informational interview with someone, just asking someone in IT what their career path it looked like, just gathering those pieces of information, I think can be really valuable. Connecting with someone across the country may be valuable from an information standpoint, but I think those local connections are probably the best bang for your buck. Um, I say here, cold DMing and be active. Um, my suggestion is always, if you can, when you're applying for a role, find a recruiter, find the manager that maybe looks like they could be the person who's hiring for that role. Shoot him a quick 2 sentence DM. Hey, my name is so and so. I've applied for the role, for this role at your company. I'm very interested in X, Y, and Z. Hope to hear from you. That was more than 2 sentences, but short and sweet. And that just when you see, and I happens to me as a recruiter, when I'm looking through 100 resumes, but I remember Rebecca Smith shot me a LinkedIn message. I'll give a look. Doesn't mean that she's going to get the job, but she just like that'll get that attention. Even though I'm going to go through all the 100 resumes, that just I think as a human reaction kind of makes me laser in a little bit. Okay. Um, Resume. So there's a lot of different forms and templates that can work. I would like to break down kind of what I zero in on and what I think is most important. Um, so a summary, and I have an example that I'm going to put up on the screen in a second here. Um, but a summary, I would keep it to 4 sentences or so. Um, just saying what you do. I'm a recent grad of this program, or I've been working with IT server since I was 16 or whatever it is. Just laying out who you are, what you're looking to do. All right, to get to the meat of it, the skills and technology as a tech recruiter is so much of what we look for. It can be, depending on the role, fairly black and white as to whether someone's a good candidate or a bad candidate, just from what the resume looks like. And I shouldn't say bad candidate, a candidate that is not as that won't be the first person we reach out to. Let's say that. So what I always tell people is be specific about the technologies that you have used. Um, this part here, I have put the stars around because this is very important. Um, what technology did you use? When did you use it? And where did you use it? Because it's good to put it in that skills and technology section to summarize what you've done, and it'll help you pick up kind of from some of the ATS searches that happen. But if someone, and I'm going to use an IT infrastructure example here again, just because that's my wheelhouse, but this would apply for programming or security or whatever. If I see someone has in their skills section Cisco routers, okay, that's good. Um, Did they use it? Are they using it now? Are they working on routers now, or did they work on routers 10 years ago and haven't touched it since? So what I would love to see, and I'll show you an example, is uh, oh, my last job was a contract at Travelers. I maintained Cisco 5,000 routers and switches. That way, the recruiter says, okay, I know exactly what technology they used. I know it's recent. I know what kind of environment they used it in. Travelers. Um, from an agency perspective, they were always preaching the top three skills. So really, that there's top three technical skills that would make someone a candidate, a viable candidate for a role. So when you're searching job descriptions, you're probably seeing a lot of job descriptions that are a laundry list of things that managers say they would like. Um, if you can really boil down the top three that are maybe most important and highlight those on your resume, I think that's always a really good place to try and get some attention to your resume. And while I'm on that subject, job descriptions that have that 20 requirements, those are not real. That's the manager saying, here's everything I would like in the perfect candidate that doesn't exist. And so recruiters are paring down what's the most important couple things here, and then we'll go from there, maybe some other nice to haves. Um, Recruiter's dilemma is that we can get hundreds of resumes for a job. I have a database analyst role that I got over 700 applications for. Um, it is very difficult to go through even 100 resumes, 200 resumes. Um, that is why we really spend maybe 20 to 30 seconds. That's the first glance of a resume. Within that 20 to 30 seconds, our attention needs to be caught somehow. Um, One tool that I use, and there's probably AI doing this now. I don't have that tool, but I always used, I pull up a resume, Control F. Okay, I'm looking for a network engineer who's used Cisco routers and switches and maybe even particular models. Control F, which would be the find function in a document, um, would then just show me, okay, is it lighting up with Cisco? Is the resume lighting up with Cisco? Or is it showing me nothing? Or maybe just once, again, like in the summary or the skills section. Um, doesn't mean that if it's not lighting up the resume, I'm not going to take a deeper dive if I think the person, if their experience looks good. But it is just a totally different story if I see Cisco routers and switches where it needs to be when I do that search for that particular keyword. And then please, this is a rising trend that I think is awful. No pictures, biological or marital information on your resume. We don't want to see it. Like, I don't want to see what you look like, because we all want to be equitable and fair. And so that what someone looks like should not have any bearing on whether or not they're considered, and we don't want to see them. In fact, at the nonprofit that I worked at, we actually would send resumes and we'd take off their name and just put initials, so there could be no bias based on a name. So we real recruiters typically just want to see whether or not your experience matches up, and then we can go from there. Um, Hobbies, I always say if they're relevant to the job you're going for, put them. I participate in a hackathon. I code C# in my spare time. I have a VMware lab, whatever it is. Put those. Um, Whether or not someone plays volleyball, I don't know if that deserves real estate on a resume. Those are my 2 cents. Okay, let's get some examples here. So this is a bit, I'm going to zoom in. This is a bit wordy for a personal summary. Um, but maybe the first couple sentences would have fit well. Systems administrator, 16 years, specialized in infrastructure, Windows Server, Linux, Mac OS, Active Directory. You can see the specifics that they're mentioning here in their summary, what they're looking to do. And then here you can see their skills section, how it's laid out, operating systems, cloud platforms, virtualization, network, with the specific technology that they're using. So this is really good when paired with the experience part of it. So this is in the person's resume. So their title, company title, the years that they've done the work for them, where it is, they all should be there. I just haven't included it here to protect identities. But they didn't just say VMware support here, right? They said implemented and managed enterprise-wide virtualization using VMware and Hyper-V. If I was looking for a VMware specialist, boom, this lights up like a Christmas tree when I do Control F. I know what they've used, ongoing maintenance of Windows and Linux servers, administered and optimized virtualization environments, again with the technology here listed, managed Active Directory, including all these things that you can see, supported and maintained Cisco UCS infrastructure. So I think that this resume gave a good example of what I'm talking about. Is that specificity, what you did with what technology, when and where, really will catch a tech recruiter's eye. So if I belabor that point too much, I apologize, but it's very important. Okay. So AI is the hot topic everywhere and with everybody. And I actually think it's a very necessary tool these days for job seekers. Um, I see AI as a calculator for words. What the calculator did for numbers, AI is doing for words. Um, so you are probably have the experience of applying for hundreds of jobs, or you will have the experience of applying for hundreds of jobs. You want to have your resume tailored to at least the jobs that you feel very strongly about and passionate about. You cannot it's humanly impossible to tailor your resume from scratch for every job that you probably have a 1 out of 100 chance of getting a call from. So AI is definitely a strong tool to use. I would say copy the job description, copy your resume, paste it into AI, quick prompt as an expert resume writer, match my experience in my resume to this job. It will spit out pretty decent, um, pretty decent content for you. Um, and typically it's using it's doing what you told it to take your resume, what's in your resume. So most of the time it's not going to make up experience that you don't have. I would do the same thing for cover letters. I'm going to give you my honest opinion as a tech recruiter. Cover letters are not very high on my list of things that are important. Um, but some recruiters are different, and some companies will require a cover letter sent in. So if you can have AI create a template cover letter for you, and then you can throw in some specifics about the job you're looking for. It's a quick way to tailor your application to the job without burning out because it can be brutal. Um, I've been with COCC for about a year. I searched for this role for about 4 months before that, and I stopped counting after I think 150 applications. So I get it. It burns you out. It's a demoralizing process. Um, that's the nature of the beast. Huge, huge, huge review and polish whatever AI spits out at you. I had a senior level architect had a referral was I thought he was a slam dunk for the role. Um, he used an AI resume and did not check it, and it listed technologies that he did not have experience with. And because it was on the job description, not his resume, AI just fumbled that a little bit. In the interview, they asked, "So, tell me about this technology that's on your resume." And he said, I've never used that technology before. Didn't get the job. So very important. It is AI is a great tool, but it needs that human element to review and polish it to make sure that you're telling the truth and you're not going to get stuck like that. Um, just a few other quick things here. LinkedIn messages, I think could be great. Um, I know sometimes I have a hard time kind of figuring out what tone or what words I want to use. It's a great starting point to just say, hey, I'm looking to send a message to a network manager at so-and-so company. Um, Create a quick message to help me get their attention. Um, there are I learned this through the research actually for this talk, but there are AI powered job boards. Teal and Simplify are a few of them. Um, I have not used these personally, so I cannot verify how effective they are. But essentially, what they're advertising is that they're using AI to match resumes to jobs, and then letting the users know when some jobs have come available that they think they could be a fit for. Again, we are in the infancy of AI as a useful technology, so there's a lot of bumpy things in the way, but I think it could be really helpful. Um, all right. Interview prep and role play and skills. This is a really good use case for AI as a job seeker. Um, Here's some technologies here that I've researched and seem pretty good. Interviewing.io, Cramp, and then just regular chat GPT. They can simulate technical and behavioral interviews. So you can give Chat GPT the resume, the job description. Hey, I'm interviewing with the network manager. Um, create 10 technical questions and 10 behavioral questions that this person may ask me, and provide good answers for them. You could probably come up with better phrasing, but that's it essentially. Um, then you can provide answers to it, and it can rate what your answers are. You can even give it very specifics. If you know the person is extremely technical, say I have a manager is extremely technical, rate my answers based on that. What objections might this manager have to this answer that I gave? You can it it's really a tool where you can dig in and get really deep, and it can really help you strategize and come up with answers. And my guess is that probably 80% of these interview questions and answers you can take to all of your interviews. So you're not necessarily just wasting or spending all this time just for one job. You can kind of take a lot of this and move it around to different interviews. AI can help you master technical challenges. So if you know that they're going to be asking a lot about Windows Server 2016, let's just say as an example, and you've had exposure to it, but you're not certain about certain things, you can just use AI to really spit out a quick summary, what's important, and you let them know, hey, I'm going for this job. Here's my resume. I need to make sure that I'm up to date on things with Windows Server 2016. What's important for me to know? And it can kind of guide you in that direction. And then, like I said, you can give the AI specific personalities to prepare for interviews. So I'm meeting with a very technical person. I'm meeting with someone who cares about finances. I'm meeting with a really grumpy person. Create objections and questions that they might ask me if you have, with whatever information you have. Okay. All right. Interviewing tips, steer the conversation towards your strengths. Um, just an example here, like I took an unconventional path into tech, which makes me uniquely prepared for this role because XYZ. Always leading into what you've done and how you can help the manager in the company. Um, Experience flip. Uh, I always say that for connecting unconventional experience and make them work for you in the interview. If you have restaurant experience and you're going for a help desk role, when I was waiting tables, I learned how to talk to people and diffuse situations when things got tense. Managers will love that, and they'll see the usefulness of it. Um, I always tell people have specific examples ready to go using the STAR method. That's STAR method. If you don't know it, you can Google it, but it's situation. Um, oh my God. I don't even know what the T stands for. I'm blanking here. But Google Star Method, it gives you a good framework for how to answer interviews. It's widely used. Um, and I would definitely have a bank of examples ready to go for common behavioral questions. Tell me about a time you failed. Tell me about a time you were stressed. Tell me about a time when you were having a hard time communicating with someone. Again, you could use AI probably to come up with this list, and then you can have that bank of answers that you can at least go in with, and then you can adapt them and change them based on the company and the job that you're interviewing for. Definitely demonstrate industry knowledge and passion. Learn about the business. I've been doing a lot of phone interviews lately where I say, so what do you know about COCC? And then I hear them clicking and they're going on the website and reading off the website description. Done. Like that, unless you're a superstar, that shows me that you did no preparation. You don't care about this role. You maybe don't even know who I am and why I'm calling. Um, so that is huge. You got to know about the company if you're going into an interview, know about the industry, show that you've done the legwork. That goes a long way. And then definitely have a bank of impactful questions for the manager. What's the problem this role needs to solve? What does success look like in this role? Those types of questions. What does the next 5 years look for this company, for the group that we're going into, et cetera? They show that you're thoughtful, that you care, and you've done your research. You don't want to and have you don't want to kind of get to the end of your interview and say I don't have any questions. So have 10 ready to go because they might answer 5 of them in the interview. And you always want to have at least one or two good, thoughtful questions to ask. All right. And then this is just a quote I really liked. Brick walls are there for a reason. The brick walls are not there to keep us out. They're there to show us how badly we want something. Um, it can be tough. It's tough breaking into any fields. I'm meeting with my sister this weekend because she's trying to break into the public health field and having a hard time with it. So it's hard breaking into any field. It took me like 8 years to break into the field that I've landed in and have had a good career with. Okay, that is my spiel.
Chris, thank you so much. That was awesome. You had a lot of sort of optimism in there, but like some real granular stuff. There's also, in addition to job seekers here, we've got some folks that are helping job seekers. And so, particularly the pace of AI with recruiting, that's really, really helpful information for us. So I've got a whole list of takeaways here around having a very long-term view, sometimes taking a slight step backwards in order to take, 2 or 3 steps forward in your career. Very optimistic and positive about not needing a degree. There's actually a question in the chat here from Justin related to that. Justin, if you're on, do you want to go off mute and ask this question, or if you're not able to, I can summarize it.
Yeah, sure. So it was in regards to what we're talking about degrees and no degrees. So if someone doesn't have a degree, how much extra effort do they need to put in to stand out or at least be comparable to somebody who already has a degree? Especially since a lot of the times the portfolios of somebody with a degree will already include like various projects and experiences that they accumulated during the pursuit of their degree.
Oh, Chris, you're muted.
Great question. My answer would be there's probably two counters to that. So one, like I said, any experience that you do have or your personal projects, you put them as if they were a very important project. You put the specs and what was the problem and what you're doing and all the technology you're using um, to try and leverage that. The second, again, this may or may not pertain to some people, but certifications are a great counter to not having a degree. Um, I have spoken, it's degrees are important to some managers and they're not important to some managers. Um, the ones I've had people say, I don't care where they went to because everything that they've learned in their IT program is in their IT college program is probably obsolete by the time they hit the job market because things change so fast. Um, where with a certificate, and they also like the managers and recruiters that it's hard to know what is being covered in these some of these college programs, right? So, and I'm not saying that having a college degree is a bad thing in computer science or IT, but I don't know what University of New Haven's IT degree encompassed, and I don't know what Southern New Hampshire University's IT program looks like. Um, some may cover infrastructure as a heavy, some might cover programming or databases as a heavy piece. Certifications counter that by saying, I've gotten this recently or I've kept up with it to get recertified on these technologies, specific technologies. So I'm going to use the CCNA as an example. Uh, Cisco, which they have that certification, they're always changing that test because their technology is always changing. And so if you got a CCNA within the last 3 years, I, as a recruiter and the hiring manager knows, okay, they know X, Y, and Z about routers from like the up to the modern versions, where someone who has a degree and no certification, we don't know what's been covered in there. So again, not to say that it's a negative to have a degree, but I think that that certification shows A, that you've put in the work, and then it gives at least a baseline of what you know. Um, in whatever area the certification's in.
You know, it's funny, they always refer to these things as industry recognized credentials, and you really put a fine point on it there and I never thought about it, but industry doesn't necessarily recognize what constitutes a bachelor's degree from, particular universities, but the credential that a lot of people on this call are pursuing, sounds like you know exactly what that is and what it means. So it's almost like speaking the same language there. So if anybody's on the fence about, that in-between step of taking the coursework and getting the credential, it sounds like you're pretty loud and clear. Get the credential. That's great.
100%. I think it's worth the investment of time
Yeah.
and money.
Okay. We've got another question, which is a really good one. Michael, do you want to ask the question if you're able to go off mute?
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah.
I was just asking how we can know if a role is right for us, because sometimes we're just looking for ever trying to find a job, and we can get into this phase where we're just applying to everything, just trying to find something. And I mean, obviously, if you need to pay bills, you need to pay bills. But how can we know if a role is right for us to take?
That's a good question. Okay. I would say the first thing to do is to know what you want, or at least what you don't want. So to take a little self-assessment of, okay, what is it? What type of environment am I looking for? What type of role am I looking for? So again, could be programming, it could be infrastructure, it could be help desk, could be security, whatever that is. And then I would ask again, so right, bills are important. But if that's not top of mind, if you're trying to map out your career, I would look at the jobs and think, okay, like I know where I want to get to. How does this help my path get there? Like, does this add to my story of becoming a network architect or a security architect or whatever it is? Is looking to see how that may help you. So I'll just give an example from my experience. I was a senior technical recruiter at an agency during COVID. I got laid off, and I was looking for recruiter roles, and this opportunity as a talent acquisition manager came up at a nonprofit. And I thought, the pay is way less than I was looking for, but if I can, that gets me management experience and a manager title, which then opens up a new career path for me versus taking maybe tech recruiter roles that would have paid more in the short term, but would not have would not have allowed me to open up that management path. So does it make sense in the story of where you want your career to go? I also, this take with a grain of salt, but the typical advice is don't worry if you're qualified for a job, just apply because you never know. There's some utility to that, but not at the expense. If you're burning yourself out, then I would say maybe rein in a little bit, right? If you're let's say you've been on the help desk for a year or two, right? I don't know that it really helps you to apply for senior system engineer roles because you're probably not qualified for it. And then you're just gonna, that's another resume, another cover letter, another application that you're just kind of using your mental energy for. So I would say be realistic as to what you might be a good fit for. Again, I'm not trying to say don't shoot up. For sure shoot up, but if you're feeling a little bit burnt out, be conscious of where you're putting that energy because every application takes a little bit of your energy out of you. Did I answer that question okay? Any follow-up questions to that? I know it was kind of all over the place there.
I think that was great. Thank you so much.
Sure.
Chris, I might have a follow-up. I'm not going to do a follow-up question. I'm going to turn it over because we've got a hand up. Yes. Why don't you go ahead and ask your question and introduce yourself as well? I think
Hi,
that's important.
Cha. Hello, everyone. I have a question for Chris. When you were looking for that 700, when you were skimming through that 750 data analyst resume that you're looking to hire, which specific programming skills or programming languages were you looking for that stands out, or certification, I wanna say?
Sure. So
Thank you.
in this particular case, I was looking for a SQL Server database person. And so, you know, it's just like I kind of mentioned before, it's a quick search. Hey, does this person have the SQL that they need to have? Do they have the PowerShell that the manager is looking for? When I have 700 resumes too, you can be very picky, because out of those 700, I'm speaking from the recruiter chair, um, you're more likely to get someone who checks all of those little boxes. Um, and so that may happen during your search. It certainly happened to me in my recent search, because I was looking for a lot of remote roles, and when you're up against that many people, the chances that someone in there has the exact experience with the exact industry, with the exact little niche tools that the client is working with, it's higher when you're dealing with that. So don't let it get to you. It's just, like I said, timing and persistence. Sometimes someone's just going to have like the perfect experience in the oil industry with this technology that 10 people have used across the country or something like that. Um, but to answer your question, that's if you the ones that I spent the resumes I spent more time with were the ones that I could quickly see had what we were looking for. So those top three, if I could see, okay, like this resume warrants more of my time, then I dig into it. If I'm doing my search and I don't see anything that I need, like I'm pretty quickly on to the next one.
Thank you.
So we've got a kind of a detailed question, but I just wanted to piggyback off the questions around, finding the employer that's right, or sorry, the job that's right. Is there anything you can share about how do we know it's the right employer? Like, and what questions might we ask to make sure in the interview, like, yeah, this is a company that I want to work with.
Um, so someone just put it in the chat, and I think that they had a good
Okay.
thing. The mission statement can show a lot. Um, Glassdoor, take it with a grain of salt because it's mostly disgruntled employees probably putting ratings there, but it can give you some insight. If a company has a 1 star on Glassdoor, yeah, there's probably a reason. Um, I think it also, to be very, very honest, it might depend on what your situation is and where you are in your career. So if you're looking to get your first IT job and you're not having much success, you may want to take a deep breath and work for a company that is not the most highly rated company to get that experience. And then, if you have that long-term view of, okay, I'm going to work here for a year, and then I'm going to start looking for that company that I agree with their mission statement or that I'm very passionate about or I know is a great place to work. Um, I think you can, look up in the news what a company's do, Google what they're doing in the news, if there's anything out there. If maybe if you have any connections that work at a company, they can give some insight to checking out their LinkedIn company page, their Indeed company page can give you some insight. If they're showing their employees at a picnic, that gives you some baseline as to that they have at least some recognition for their employees and some rewards. If you're not seeing anything positive, that might be a red flag that it's not going to be the most enjoyable experience.
Right? Wise words. Question from Sullivan Brown. Looks like you had a question.
No, I was just applauding Martha for her question. I'm
Oh,
sorry.
why, thank you.
I do see
Uh,
someone here about best preferred file type.
Yeah,
I
get
would
this
say
one.
PDF is best. Um, Word doc would be acceptable too. It's fine. But I think PDF would be the best. I think system it agrees with most systems the best. Um, and then when you're opening up a file in Word, like you can, it just it opens it up in the edit view a lot of the time. So it sometimes the formatting doesn't look right or it doesn't look as clean, but in a PDF, it's a very clean, easy to read format.
Um, it's a question that came in separately. Hybrid and remote working. What's happening there? What are the trends right now for remote working and hybrid working?
So this is what I view as a little bit of an unfortunate turn, but um, remote is becoming more rare. Fully remote is becoming more rare. Companies are bringing folks back to the office, um, and they're willing to lose people. Some companies are willing to lose people for the sake of bringing people back to the office. That's, the strength of their resolve. So even in the last 2 months, I've talked to several people who've had long careers at some companies, and then they're being called back to states that they don't live in, or they took a remote job during the pandemic. They live in Ohio and the company's in New Jersey, and all of a sudden they're saying, okay, you got to report to the New Jersey office, and it's not feasible. Um, COCC is hybrid. Um, and I've worked fully remote for years, and I've worked hybrid. I'm lucky to be within a half an hour of my office. Um, I like the hybrid setup the best. I think it gives the employees the flexibility they need, um, while at the same time allowing for that camaraderie to build up, um, in the in-person. My personal opinion, I worked for remote for a company for 3 years, and I built up some decent relationships, never meeting the people in real life. Um, it's different, but we were fairly effective. But I do think that that's becoming more and rare, and the more remote or the hybrid roles are going to get higher application counts than the on-site roles. So that's more competition. When I was searching fully remote roles for recruiters, within 24 hours, there was 1,000 applicants. You're going up against everyone in the country, essentially. So especially if you're looking to start, it might not be your favorite choice, but if, those 5 day work, 5 day on-site jobs will have probably the smallest pools to compete against.
Okay, we've probably got time for maybe one more question. And I see Maria. Hi, Maria. Has a comment or a question, and this is kind of an interesting one. Maria, are you able to go off mute and ask the question? Okay, right. So it does kind of open up this question of people that are new to IT and are really transferring from. We see a lot of people that are coming in from education or from nursing, and so we start looking at these transferable skills. And so there's a reaction to the Control F strategy that you mentioned. So any thoughts on how somebody can really highlight those potentially transitional skills from another work experience?
I totally get it. It in my experience, a lot of the jobs that I've recruited for, especially, and I feel like a lot of these in the IT space, there are specific things that you need to catch the recruiter's eye with. And I think that um, putting what you can to do that is the best strategy. Because both sides of this coin have a problem. The job seeker, their problem is getting the time spent on their resume, and the recruiter is looking through hundreds of resumes to find what the company needs. And so you've got to find a way to get, however you can, get the attention. So whatever tech experience you do have, or not even experience, but technology, like I said earlier in that skills section, or that summary, if you can highlight what you do have that lines up with the role, that's just going to help. That's going to help you get your foot in the door. And then once you can say, okay, I'm a recruiter, this resume is something I'm going to spend the next minute looking into now, then I can see, okay, she was a teacher. She probably can handle disruptive clients if they're going for a help desk, or they were a nurse. So they may be good at troubleshooting, or dealing with difficult clients or customers. So I totally understand where you're coming from. But it really is like it's about getting that first look and almost justifying the recruiter's time to say, okay, let me look at this a little deeper and see if this could work. But if some of those hard some of those hard requirements are not there quickly, then they're probably going to look past the resume, because if I've got 200 applicants, someone may be a fit, or they could learn the skills or something like that, and I'm a big proponent of giving people those opportunities, but I can't do that 200 times digging into a resume to see if this person maybe has the skills or the background that could maybe work if we taught them X, Y, and Z.
Okay, thanks, Chris. And Maria, thanks for that question. It's a really important one, because we're all coming at this from different angles and different backgrounds, and the recruiters are human too. So I really like that recruiter's dilemma that you presented, Chris. So we are out of time. So I really just want to thank you, Chris, for your generosity of your time and your background and expertise. You've given us a ton of good, very targeted information, which I think is going to help everybody with their job search. Any sort of certainly going to encourage everybody to look at COCC, the website, which I'm sure you've done already, and done your research, but also taking a look at that job page. Chris, is there any kind of final comment you want to make before we start to close out?
I think it's just going to be a reiteration of, um, you know, keep your chin up as you're going through this. It's hard. It's a hard thing. There's no way around it. It's just hard to break in. So sometimes knowing something's going to be hard, at least for me, helps me try to get through it and not think, oh, this should have been easier. It's like this is gonna be hard. It's gonna stink. Like, but we got to find a way through it. So keeping that up, and then leveraging whatever you can, whatever you have in your toolbox, um, to 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 break into the role, and don't be afraid, like you said, Martha, to like take a few steps back, or whatever you may perceive to be a few steps back, or a less, maybe not your dream job at first, but if it gets you on the path to your dream job, in my experience, that's always paid off. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and ask any questions you might have if they pop up.
Great. That's part of your networking, everybody. And also, I guess sort of a final bit of advice is to keep in touch with your your job coach. So we've got Katrina on the call. If you're working with DCI Resources or with Charter Oak, you've got resources there. So lean on them, use them, because there's a lot of expertise there. So I think that's it. I just wanted to thank everybody for their participation, for taking the time in the evening, and Chris, especially you. Thank you so much for your expertise. And I'll say good night to everybody. Next, just one more thing. Next time, I think the date is February 20th. Liberty Bank. We're going to have the Vice President of Cybersecurity, business relations from Liberty Bank. So that'll be the next one in our series of Hartford area tech executives to talk to. And so hopefully we'll see you all then.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Take care.